Can you make the bottom screen full? Look at that. Not bad for an old looking guy, huh? Okay, we're ready? We're going? Cool. Can you hear me? All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Jim DePalma from Wales Darby, obviously. In the background is Christiane Levine running all the computers and everything, and as always, keeping us on task. Answering our questions in the background is also Mr. Robert Clemens. So if you've never been on our webinar series before, either on the bottom or side of your screen, you do have a chat where you can, or a question bar where you can click on that and type in your questions. Rob will try to answer the questions as best he can. If there's a great question that we'll address to the group, and Rob will bring that to my attention. Today's webinar is called Making the Connection. We have a bunch of products here at Wales Darby where, even though they may be simple products, if you think about it, they're still quite technical, and the proper way to make the connection for these products is really, really important, because if we don't make the connection right, obviously we're going to have a problem. So we are going to go over making the connection for Uponor PEX. We're going to go over to PEX fitting. From there, we're going to go to Uponor's Total Fit. From there, we're going to go to TracPipe. From there, we're going to go to MaxiPro Conex ACR refrigeration fittings. From there, we're going to go to a new product for us, relatively new product for us, called Waterpress. And then we're going to end up at Centrotherm. All these different types of pipes, all these different types of connections for all these different types of systems. Okay? So I'm going to go on to, there's our screen. Thank you, Chris. So those are the different products we're going to go over today. All right, Uponor PEX, Uponor Total Fit, TracPipe Counterstrike, Conex ACR, Waterpress, and Centrotherm. Okay, so first things first, let's go to Uponor. So there's plenty of contractors out there that are using PEX pipe for plumbing. They're using PEX pipe for radiant heat. They're using PEX pipe for hydronic heating systems, also chilled water systems, for reclaiming water, snowmelt systems, what have you. And there are differences between PEX pipes. There's A pipe, there's B pipe, there's C pipe. And today we're talking about Uponor PEX, Ingle method PEX. And that means that we're going to take our pipe, we're going to expand the pipe. We're going to need rings, and we're going to need a fitting. And Robert, I should have pulled out a fitting already. So we're going to need three pieces. We're going to need our pipe, we're going to need our ring, and we're going to need a fitting. So on the PowerPoint slide, I showed you different fitting systems. Thank you, Chris. So the Uponor PEX, PEX expansion. Then you see a PEX press type of connection, a PEX crimp connection, CPVC, and copper. Well, everybody should be familiar with how to make a copper fitting. You have to cut the pipe. You have to clean the pipe. Then you have to put your flux on the pipe, put it together, and then sweat that pipe connection together. All right? Multi-step process, kind of messy, and if you don't do it right, you're going to get a leak. CPVC, you got to use the proper pipe, you got to use the proper glue, and there's curing time there. All right, PEX crimp, PEX press, PEX press means that those fittings are going to slide right into the tubing. So this piece of pipe I'm holding here is a piece of 1/2-inch pipe. So if it was a crimp fitting or a press fitting, that means the fitting will slide into the pipe. So it's going to be smaller than the inside diameter of this pipe. Uponor expansion means I'm going to take a fitting that is larger than my pipe. I'm going to expand the ring and the pipe and then insert that fitting into the pipe. Completely different setup. Because of that, we do get a 30% better flow rate versus insert fittings, meaning that press connection or that crimp connection, a 30% better flow rate, which, you know, that adds up. 30% is 30%. The other guys just don't have that. So it has to be Engel method PEX. Engel method PEX. And what we're doing when we expand the pipe with the ring is we're taking advantage of what's called its elastic memory. And at some point in time, in about maybe 20 minutes or so, the pipe is actually going to now outline the outside of the fitting. It's actually going to adhere, not adhere, what am I trying to say, Rob? It's going to, what am I trying to say? It's going to actually fill in all the gaps on this fitting when we make it together. That was a terrible explanation. But anyway, not enough coffee. So we're going to use our Milwaukee expander tool. All right. So these tools you get from Milwaukee. Very important you use this because it makes life very easy. When you get this tool, it's going to come with at least 3 heads. And we do make it where we can expand up to 3-inch pipe. So I have a 1/2 inch, 3/4, and 1 inch comes with the basic package when you get this Milwaukee expander tool. The heads, you know, they screw on and off, and we have this cone here. It will come with grease. You have to make sure that the cone is greased, not heavily greased, just a slight coating so it doesn't get stuck. I'm going to take my head. This is my 1/2 inch ProPEX head. I'm going to screw it on. Now, what's interesting about this tool is that cone is expanding out the head, and it's also going to rotate that head. Let me see if I can hold this up so you can see it well. So if you see, if you can see a line here, it's actually going to rotate. So the reason why we need to do that is because each head has some teeth on it, and the teeth have to grab the inside of the pipe. If I don't let the tool expand and rotate around, I'll dig a channel into that pipe, and that will cause me a leak. So we don't want to do that. So in order to make this fitting correctly, we're going to cut the pipe. Try to cut it as straight as you can. Our rings are made out of the same material as the pipe, but it's a thicker diameter, and they are beveled or countersunk on one side. And on the other side, we do have built-in stops. So when I cut the pipe, I take my ring on the beveled side, push it on, and it will stop. So now I'm ready to make my connection. So I'm going to take my tool, I'm going to insert it in here, and I'm not going to push. I'm going to let the tool work its way in. So I'm going to let the tool work its way in. Now at this point, I'm shoulder to shoulder with my ring and the tool. I'm going to give it 1, 2, 3 more expansions. I'm going to take my fitting, going to push it in, and I should see a shoulder to shoulder connection. In 20 minutes, I can give pressure test to this, and I'm not going to have a problem. I cannot pull this out. No way in heck. When I do this in front of contractors, I'll even pass it around because some guys will say, give me that, I want to see if I can pull it out. They'll never pull it out. If we were able to pressure test this pipe at 950 PSI, the pipe will thin out on one side, it'll kind of mushroom and then break or pop. It doesn't shatter. We will not blow off the fitting. If it was a brass connection and I connected it to Rob's bumper on his car, and I connect the other side to the bumper on my car, and we slowly drive our cars apart at 400 pounds tensile, that's when we will rip the pipe. We still will not pull out the fitting. This is a bulletproof connection as long as you let the tool do the job for you. Okay? Rob, any questions on that from anybody?
Not a question yet.
All right. So, Chris, can we go back to the PowerPoint, please? All right. So what's critical for you is when you make the connection, and as you can see up here, we want to see shoulder to shoulder. We don't want to see any gap between the shoulder of the fitting and the ring. The only allowable gap would be the width of a credit card lying flat. So very, very tiny gap. If there's a large gap, you need to do it again. Now, that's an advantage. That's an advantage for you. Because if you were running a crew on a project, you can walk that job and visually just look to see if they did that connection correctly just by looking for that gap. If they do a crimp connection, they're actually supposed to use a go, no-go gauge to make sure that they crimped it properly. And they're also supposed to calibrate their crimping tool. Unfortunately, not many people do that. And there's a very good chance when you do a crimp connection, you can put the crimp ring on, insert the fitting, and then forget to do the crimp. And could be a few days, could be a week, maybe 30 days later, eventually that fitting will give away. So what I'm telling you is this fitting here cannot be dry fit. Nobody can put this together and forget to finish making the fitting. The only way to get this fitting into the tube, or into the pipe, I should say, is to use the expander tool and the ring, and then insert it after we've completely expanded it. That's a big deal. That is a big deal. So because of this expansion fitting, whether it's plumbing, whether it's heating, whether it's radiant, whether it's snow melt, we've had fantastic success with this type of fitting. One of the things you want to make sure of is that you always inspect the fitting before you use it. Make sure there's no scratches, no dents, no gouges. So this is the plastic EP, very durable fitting, but always inspect it to make sure there's no scratches or anything. If you're using a brass connection, if you need it to sweat, or if you're going to thread, brass, is pretty fragile, as I like to say. If I drop it, there's a good chance it could get nicked or scratched. Always double check to make sure on the PEX side it's not nicked, scratched, or dented, because that could possibly cause you a leak. If I go to the next slide, this is really, really important. There are minimum distances we want between fittings. And if I see a contractor make a mistake on a job, it's really right here. So if this is new to you, or maybe you've been doing it for a while and you've added some more people to your company, contact us. We'll come down and we'll train you guys up to make sure you're going to do this correctly, because there are distances that you must maintain in between each connection. And I've seen contractors, try to fit it in a really, really tight spot and almost make the fitting connections right on top of each other. And we can't do that, because if you look closely here, right there at the pipe, you see how the pipe bows out. If you're a beer connoisseur and you've seen a Sam Adams beer glass, that kind of looks like the top of a Sam Adams beer glass. And right there, the pipe is stretched. So I need space in between the connections for the pipe to relax, as we say, and go back to being straight before we have the next connection. So in the world of plumbing, half, 3/4, 1 inch, you guys play there a lot of times. So you can see I need 2 inches between 2 1/2-inch connections, 3 inches between 2 3/4 connections, 1 inch, 3 1/2 inches, and so on. So where I will see where a contractor will make a mistake is he tries to run this pipe like if he would copper. He's going to come up, he's going to put a 90 or a T, he's going to have a 90, and he's going to want to squeeze it in between the joists, maybe in a plumbing system. And remember, the pipe is flexible. We can bend the pipe. And this may be blasphemous for some people, but when I'm feeding a shower valve, all the pipes don't have to be in one bay. I can come out with my hot and cold and bend into that valve. And that's where guys will kind of get in trouble. They'll make the connection super, super tight. And if I don't give the pipe a chance to relax, then that could be a possible leak too. So the most important things are that we inspect our fittings to make sure that there's no gouges in there or scratches. We make sure we let the tool do the work of expanding the ring and the pipe Don't push it in, let the tool just work its way in. And we make sure our connections, our minimum distances between fittings, that we stay within those distances. All right? Rob, anything?
Yeah, just getting, actually got a bunch of questions about, what kind of fittings that we have to adapt to different kinds of pipes and whatnot.
Okay.
So just brush on that real quick.
So in our catalog, there's a fitting for everything. So if I need to go from PEX to copper, if I need to go to PEX to copper with either sweat connection, we have it. If I have to go from PEX to copper with a threaded connection, we have it. If we're going to go from ProPEX to CPVC, we have that also. So there's no combination you could do that we don't have a fitting connection for you. All right. If you're going to our manifolds for radiant, those connections are going to be ProPEX or compression, and it's an R20 thread. We call it a QS20 fitting. It's an R20 thread, and that threads right on to the manifold. So we have everything. What else?
Press transition fitting.
We even have press. So we have ProPEX to press also. We have that also. All right. Now, Uponor just came out with another connection. This is called their Total Fit package. And I'll go to the next screen to show that. So the next screen is Total Fit. And that should look kind of familiar to you because there's other products out there on the market that look the same. So this is where we press actually just push the fitting right onto the tubing, and we can go from PEX to PEX, PEX to copper, PEX to CPVC. It doesn't matter. So I have one of those connections here, and I'm going to take my pipe and show you how we go through that. Let me get my stuff together here. Sorry. Entertain them, Rob, as I struggle to get this out. Gee whiz. I don't know. Tell a joke. No, don't tell a joke. So, as you see on the screen, we have our depth gauge, and it also makes sure that the pipe is clean at the end. So since this is a piece of 1/2-inch pipe, I'm going to find my 1/2-inch connection, and I'm going to put it on here and just spin it around to make sure the pipe end is clean. And if I'm going to copper is really where I have to do that. So I'm going to put this on here, spin it around to make sure the edge of the copper is clean. Okay, no big deal. We've done that. Then we're also marking the insertion depth. So when I put that on the pipe, I'm going to take my marker and I'm going to make my mark to make sure that when I put my Total Fit fitting on there, I'm going to go to that depth. Now the Total Fit fitting comes with an insert. So if I'm going into PEX, I need an insert. It's a stiffener. And then if I'm going to say copper or CPVC, I can take that insert out. So since I'm going to go to copper, I'm just going to push it on to the depth of my marking, and I'm done. Now, if I'm going to go to the I'm going to go to my ProPEX side. I'm sorry, my PEX side. I'm going to line that up, push it in, and done. So that's Uponor Total Fit. It comes with a tool to remove it if I need to. So this should look familiar to a lot of people. Again, there's other manufacturers that have a like type of product. If I push it on there, now I can remove it from the pipe. Same thing on the PEX side. I can push it on. Oops, I put it on the wrong way. Sorry. Rob's got me nervous. No, Rob's on the phone. Pay attention, Rob. And I can take that off. That's Uponor Total Fit. Okay? That's relatively new for us. I believe that came out mid last year. It's been selling like crazy. So we have this available to you here. And as you can see, we have it in different configurations. We have couplings. We have Total Fit to a threaded connection. Let me highlight that right here. We have some longer pieces here. Elbows. a shower head connection, and T's. All right. Robbie, any questions on that?
No, not yet.
Okay, very good, very good. All right, that's the Uponor side. That's our PEX, and that's our total fit. Next, we're going to go to TracPipe. We're going to go to TracPipe. Oh, I failed to move over so you guys could see how you set that up. My bad. On the total fit. Cut the pipe, deburr, mark the depth, insert, confirm depth, off you go. All right. TracPipe Counterstrike. TracPipe is a product that we've been repping here for 20 plus years. We run this product instead of black iron pipe for natural gas or propane. It is a very technical product because we do have to size it correctly, we do have to run it and protect it, and we do have to make the fitting correctly. And we've had one fitting for all these years. It's been a bulletproof fitting, and that's what I'm going to show you today. Yes, sir, Mr. Clemens.
What is the temperature rating for the ProFit fittings that you just showed?
Temperature rating. Well, our pipe can handle up to 200 degrees at 73.4 PSI, so we should have no issue with that with our total fit connection.
All right. How about on the low side? Do you know that off the top?
Low side, low temperature? Like for chilled water?
Yes, chilled water.
Off the top of my head, I do not know, but chilled water is not a problem because we do chilled water systems all the time. All right? That's the key?
That was the one I wanted you to say.
Okay, very good. All right, so TracPipe Counterstrike, made by Omega Flex, making this connection. Cool fitting, we've done this forever. So I'm going to move over to the next slide. So when we make this fitting, we're going to take our pipe, and you're going to use a dedicated tubing cutter when you make this connection. This is a flexible pipe. This is corrugated stainless steel. I can bend this pipe, I can turn it into a knot, and I won't flatten the corrugations. But it's also a very hard pipe. It has a pretty high nickel content in it. So we eat cutting wheels. So if you were doing a lot of copper work and then you go to make one of these connections, you may find that when you cut the pipe, you're leaving behind a flare or a burr. The fitting is very forgiving. We're the only kids on the street that'll actually flare the pipe, and we will flare that flap or burr, but that will cause you a leak. So you really want to have a dedicated tubing cutter available to you when you cut this pipe. And if you find that you're starting to get flaps or burrs, it's time to change the wheel. All right. If you use a really dull wheel, you'll always get flaps or burrs. And I've actually seen where the wheel was so dull, we actually ended up squaring off the corrugation and we couldn't actually even make the fitting. So you want to use a dedicated tubing cutter, always maintain a sharp wheel. So because of that, I like to tell contractors to, hey, first, cut back the jacket. Cut back the jacket first. This way you're giving your wheel a good chance to make a nice clean cut. But if you got a brand new wheel, you know you can cut through the jacket and the pipe. And when you do that, this end of the pipe is going to be razor sharp. So please respect that. Don't fool around. You cut it, it is razor sharp. It will cut you, and it can really leave a mark. So be respectful of that. Chris, if we can go back to the PowerPoint real quick. So when we train on this product, and you do need to be trained to use this product because you do get a card that says, I've been through my training. And in our territory here, technically you cannot buy this from a wholesaler without having gone through the class and presenting your card. And when you go for inspection and the inspector comes, he's going to want to see your card. And if you're running a crew on a project and everybody in the crew is going to be touching this product, everybody has to have a card. All right? Very important. So on the PowerPoint here, I'm showing you how far you have to cut back the jacket. So most of the time we're playing with half, 3/4, 1 inch is the common 3 sizes, though we do get into these bigger sizes here. And you can see how far we're going to cut back the jacket for standard fittings. 1 3/16, 1 1/4. And then if we're going to any of our termination fittings, we do have to cut it back a little bit further. So for 1/2 inch, I'm going to 1 1/2. And for 3/4, I'm going to 1.75 inches. Another way to think about it, or make it easier for you, is we're going to take the fitting and we're going to take the nut. So Chris, if we can go back to camera, thank you. We're going to take the nut and we're going to cut back the depth of the nut plus 1 corrugation. The depth of the nut plus 1 corrugation. All right? That's always going to work if you're going to a standard TracPipe fitting. Do I need to answer this question right now or continue on?
It goes back to the ProFit fitting, so that's why I didn't want to get too far away from it. What is the warranty on that fitting?
You get 25 years on our fittings. If you've been trained by us, you get 25 years. If not, we give you 10 years on the pipe. Okay? All right, back to the auto flare fitting. So the auto flare fitting comes in 3 pieces. You get the nut, you get a pair of split rings, which are going to be kind of hard to see here, and brand new fitting, there is a sealant on there. I call it a grease, so they're sticky. Don't drop these on the ground. You'll pick up dirt and debris. You kind of have to try to wipe it off. It's a pain in the neck. And this is the auto flare side right here. This is a chamfered edge. So we're actually going to flare the fitting. So when this is done, we will have a metal-to-metal seat. There will be no dope and there'll be no tape on this side. Okay? So again, I've cut back the jacket. All right? I've cut it back the depth of the nut plus 1 corrugation. I'm putting my nut on. The split rings will go right into the first corrugation next to the tube cut. So the split rings go into the first corrugation next to the tube cut. I pull up the nut. So basically that is holding the nut onto the pipe. Then I'm going to take my auto flare and I'll probably get 1 or 2 rotations in there. And now it's time to take my wrenches. Not a channel lock and a wrench, and definitely not 2 channel locks. It's brass. You put channel locks on here, you will rip the fitting into pieces. Don't do that. 2 wrenches. And what's so nice about this connection, there's no gasket, there's no nothing like that in there. So it doesn't matter whether you turn the nut or the body. So if you want to hold the nut and turn the body, fine. You're going to crank it down. When we do a class, I tell everybody I want to see the vein in your forehead pop out. Or some contractors have said, oh, you want to make a German fitting, good and tight. You like that, Rob? Good and tight. So when it is done, what we have here, you'll have 1 thread left. You'll have 1 thread left. And when it is done, and I'm going to break this apart. So in order to save time and just make a better camera shot, we've already pre-made this. I get a metal-to-metal seat. If you took this apart, you're going to have to actually wiggle it. It'll pop in order to take it apart. We get a metal-to-metal seat, no dope, no tape on this side. You dope and tape this side, but never here. So if I have a leak, well, one of 2 things happened. You didn't cut the pipe cleanly and you got a flap or a burr. So if that happens, I have to take the fitting apart, recut the pipe, and then make the connection again. If I didn't have a flap or a burr, that means you didn't tighten it up enough. Only 1 thread left on this side. Only 1 thread left. Everybody understand that, I hope? Okay? Now, to finish this fitting, if this was an outdoor connection, the exposed stainless has to be taped off in silicone tape, and we tape up the nut. So any exposed stainless we get taped off, plus the nut, if it's an outdoor connection. Let's say, for argument's sake, you weren't paying attention, you got a new guy on the crew, and he cuts back the jacket further. He cut it back, I got like 4, 5, 6 inches of exposed stainless. Most inspectors are going to say, hey, inside, I want you to tape that off and tape it to the nut. Because we're losing the ability of our jacket for bonding. So if I have this much exposed inside, I'm fine, there's no issue. If the inspector says, hey, I want that taped off, just do it. It's not a big deal. The reason why we use silicone tape is silicone tape has no glues on it. Typical glues that's on the back of black electrical tape or duct tape has chlorides and fluorides in it, and that will eat stainless steel. So we don't use those tapes, we use silicone tape. And again, any exposed stainless outdoors, we tape it off, plus the nut.
Self-adhering.
Self-adhering. Now you're going to do a pressure test when you make this connection. So everybody's got a gauge, and typically you've got a 30 psi gauge. So you're going to pressure test to half your gauge. So 15-pound pressure test, that's all we're looking for. If the inspector wants it higher, that's not a problem, because my 3/8 pipe up to 1 inch, I can handle up to 125 psi. And if I go to 1 1/4 inch, 1.5 and 2-inch pipe, I can handle up to 50 psi. All we're looking for is half your gauge. If the inspector wants higher, not a problem. So now when we do our pressure test, you're going to spray it with a solution because you're looking for bubbles. Do not use a soap and water solution because soap also has chlorides and fluorides in it. So you want to buy from the wholesaler the non-chloride fluoride leak detection fluids. I think Blue Angel makes one. A couple other people make it, Hercules. That's what you spray on the pipe. You pressure test to half your gauge. You see bubbles, double check and see how you made the connection. Either you didn't tighten it up enough or you left a flap or a burr and you need to cut it clean and do it again. So Rob is furiously looking at me. He's got questions. Yes, sir.
Yes, you almost touched upon it. Came very close. You even said the word.
What did I say?
Bonding. So just wanted to discuss really quickly how what are the bonding requirements as far as
okay.
TracPipe is concerned?
All right, so it has got nothing to do with the fitting, but it has everything to do with the jacket. But this is a webinar on fittings, but I'll touch on it. All right, we have this black jacket. This black jacket, for the best of my knowledge, is a carbon-based jacket. I don't know all the materials that make it. It's super secret. They're not going to tell us. But what this jacket allows us to do is when we run this product in a gas system, in a home or a building, and at any time I'm running this product to what we would consider a movable appliance, which would be a dryer, which would be a stove, any appliance that is plugging into an outlet and it's got 3 prongs on that wire, that third prong or the middle prong, okay, Rob loves when I do that, that is your ground. So as long as that appliance is plugging into that outlet, all right, it's got a dedicated ground. Thank you, Rob. That means now I'm connected to the circuit panel in the building, which is grounded to earth. So as long as one of my appliances in my gas system is connected that way, there is no additional bonding requirements required by TracPipe. If I run this to an appliance and there's nothing in the system that is connected to that is plugged in and has a dedicated ground back to the circuit panel, then you do have to use a bonding clamp that you put on the nut. And I think that's a number 6 wire that you would go from the clamp, and either you could take it back to the meter or you could take it back to the grounding rod. But unless you have an electrical license, you cannot go into that panel, but you can connect it to the grounding rod. All right? So 9 times out of 10 in a residential system, even a commercial system, somewhere in that system there's going to be an appliance connected to it, plugged into the wall, so I am now bonded to the system because of our jacket. All right?
Thank you, sir.
Good to go. Now, since we're talking about bonding, and because I have to run it, one of my appliances is going to be plugged into the wall, that would be considered a movable appliance. So there is a different fitting that you're going to use. This is the most popular one. This is our wall box. This would sit in between the joists in a wall. My TracPipe is going to come into the bottom here, and built into the fitting itself is the auto flare connection. Oh, dang it, it's a little tight. All right, so built into the fitting itself is the auto flare connection. So I'm going to take the face off. I'm going to take out the fitting. So here's our fitting. Here's the gas valve itself. You'll see that there's hex flats here for your wrench. This is the auto flare side, or I'm sorry, the nut. You'll notice that the nut's got a threaded tailpiece. So if I back out the nut, you will see the auto flare side. And I do have the split rings in here. So basically what you're doing is you're going to have to cut back the jacket a little further. And you would be bringing the pipe. First, you got to put the lock ring for the box on the pipe. You're going to be bringing that pipe into the box. Now I'm going and I'm going to be making my connection inside the box. All right, so you're going to push the tubing further in so you can make that connection. Then once you've made that connection, you're going to pull it in. You're going to bring up the lock ring, lock that up, and then you're good to go. So one of the things that's really important to understand is when you make this connection to a movable appliance, the reason why we do that is because TracPipe counterstrike piping is made to replace black iron pipe. It is not an appliance connection. So if I take this pipe and use it as an appliance connector, and I move that appliance back and forth out of the wall, eventually I'm going to bend the pipe enough that it will crack. It is not made for that. So we use these type of connections because at this point here you use a standard appliance connection pipe, and that goes directly to the appliance. Those types of pipe you can bend back and forth all day long and you will not damage the pipe. Now, something else to be aware of. You'll notice that this came plugged from the factory. This is a low pressure gas ball valve. When I do a class in person, I have everybody take their hand, hold it in front of their face and just go, ah. That's a 1/4 PSI, 6-7 inches water column. Very low pressure. So the ball valve that you use in a low pressure system like this has to be able to seat at low pressure. So TracPipe sends this to you with the valve in the open position but set and plugged. It's ready for your pressure test. So you're going to pressure test to half your gauge, 15 PSI. You pass your test, inspector signs off on it. You take the pressure off, take the plug out, now you make your connection to the appliance, and then you can close the valve. You don't need to close the valve when you do your pressure test, because if you do and you hit it with 15 pounds, you will damage the seats on the valve, and now the valve is going to leak. So that's not something we keep as a secret. It is in the instructions, which we hope everybody reads. And if you come to a class, this is something that we educate you on. Okay? With this product, you also have the ability to take it outside and bury it underground. So we have a pre-made product for you called PS2, which allows you to run this underground. Or, so I can run it underground in a trench. All right, you got to follow local code. So around here, 18 inches below grade, you got to get below frost. But if I'm doing a lot of slab on grade type of jobs and I need to run gas in there, I can have this encased in that slab. It's a different jacket. The jacket is much thicker. The jacket comes with ridges in it because if there was an underground gas leak, we want the gas to follow the ridges up. And the fitting itself is different because now it comes with this cuff. This cuff has a gasket on this side. The fitting itself, again on the auto flare side, I've got a threaded tailpiece with another gasket. So now when I put this together and I make my connection, I've now made a watertight connection. So that's extremely important if you run this product underground. And the only time I need to vent, and we give you a spot for a vent, is if it's encased in concrete or underneath a slab. Now I have to vent the conduit that I ran the pipe in. And if you go with the PS2, it's already built in there for you. So I think TracPipe thought of everything with that type of product. We've had great success with this fitting. It's been bulletproof from day one. So far, we've never blown anybody up. because they come to classes and they learn. So again, if you don't have your TracPipe card, go to your distributor where you were buying it from, talk to them, and we'll set up a training for you at that distributor or at your shop if you need. Rob, any questions on TracPipe?
No, we're good.
Okay, very good. All right, so moving on, we're going to go to, where's my control? We are going to go to Conex Banninger. These are ACR refrigeration press connections. All right, this has been a big deal for us in our territory here. Heat pump systems, mini split heat pump systems are growing in a huge amount as primary heat and primary cooling for residential and commercial uses. And especially on the commercial side, this type of fitting is a big deal because generally in the world of commercial heat pump systems, they would be brazing. If you don't braze correctly, you can contaminate the system, cause big problems. If I am brazing on a commercial job, I have to bring in my nitrogen tanks. You need a fire watch person. So by using these type of connections, no brazing, no tanks, no fire watch, we can get the system piped in and up and running much faster with these type of systems. All right, with this type of fitting. So we're going to show you how to make a Maxi Pro Conex connection. So if you look on the screen, this is showing you what we're actually doing. This is a press connection. My God, press connection. So if we look on the screen, there is the bead. So we will press that bead, but we will also press behind the bead and in front of the bead. So we don't just press the bead in front, behind, and the bead itself. There's an insertion depth, so when you push the fitting onto the pipe, we will dead end in there. And if you can see here, if you want to make your screen bigger, the end of our fitting, we call that the hook. There's more copper there at the end of the fitting. And if you put your finger in here, you can feel that hook. So there's more meat of copper right there. So when that is pressed, we are digging that also into the pipe. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 points of contact when we make this connection. So that's very important because we can handle some very high pressures. These mini split systems, we're going to ask you to pressure test up to 600 psi. So we have to be able to handle that type of pressure. Now, when you get these fittings, because if we can go back to just all camera, please. When you get these fittings, it's going to come in a package, and you're looking at it like, okay, great, big deal. This is a big deal because we keep our fittings in this package because we want to make sure there's no dirt, dust, any type of debris that gets on the O-ring because the O-ring does have some oil on there. So we want to keep these fittings as clean as possible. So this is the way they come, right in the package. So if they're on your truck, if they're sitting at the wholesaler, you get it, you're going to get a clean connection. They're not taking fittings out of a bin and throwing it in a bag for you. They come pre-bagged and they're clean. Right on the back of the bag is the step-by-step process on how to make this connection. So if you're like, geez, I haven't made one of these in a while, just look at the back of the bag. It takes you step-by-step on how to make this connection. Now, what's important is when we make these type of connection is what type of copper am I using? The copper pipe has to have 2 ratings on it, ASTM B280 and ASTM B288, correct?
ASTM, the second one is
B280 and I believe B88.
B88.
Okay, very important. If your copper does not have those ASTM ratings, when you make this connection, you'll crush the copper. So very important, whatever line set you're using or copper pipe you're using, make sure it has those ASTM ratings on there. So what's the step-by-step? We're going to cut the pipe, obviously. Then what we're going to do is we're going to clean the pipe. So you're going to use your tools to clean the pipe, all right? You're going to get in here, going to make sure you deburr it, clean the pipe. Yes, I'm sorry. Oh, my God. When we do this, we face the copper down. We don't want any of that material falling into the pipe. It's going to mess up our system. We take our deburring tool. We make sure everything is clean on the inside. All right? Clean on the inside, clean on the outside. We're good. We're going to take our pad here, and we're going to polish this up. We're going to polish this up. I want you to make it a mirror. I want to be able to see myself in here. Polish it up nice and good. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take your fingernail, you're going to run your fingernail across here, and I'm looking for any deep scratches or any deep burrs. And if I find anything like that, I got to cut it and do it again. We don't want anything there. We want to make sure it's nice and clean. Any scratch that I could feel with my fingernail, cut the pipe after that scratch and do the same process over again. Once I've done that, I'm going to take my depth finder, all right, my depth gauge. I'm going to put it on the pipe. So this is a piece of 1/2 inch. I'm using my 1/2 inch depth finder. Again, you're going to take your Sharpie and you're going to mark that on the pipe to make sure that when I insert my fitting, I'm going to go to the depth that I have marked. Okay, let me get some stuff out of the way here. Now we have all kinds of fittings. When it comes to this product, one of the most popular ones is a pre-made flare connection with the press on the other side. And again, the press is going to have that hook, all right, a little bit of extra meat there, and we're going to press in front of the bead, on the bead, and on the back of the bead. Always inspect to make sure that the gasket is in place. When I put this on the pipe, I actually kind of want to give it a roll as I push it in. And now I've pushed it right up to my insertion point. We want to make sure it stays there. Now you're going to need your press tool. There are many tools out there that can do these fittings as long as you use our jaws, the Conex Banninger jaws. If you've got Milwaukee, if you've got, the M12s, M18s, Rigid, Klauka, Viega, our jaws will fit their tool. You need to use our jaws to make the connection. So this particular tool here, and we mark our jaws for a refrigerant as pink, so you always know it's for refrigerant. So this is Maxi Pro Copper 1/2 inch. I'm going to put this into the tool, lock it in. All right, some of these tools are heavy, as you guys know, so we're going to open it up. I'll just do it this way. We'll open it up, make sure my fitting again is in place. We're going to open it up, seat it in the tool. Now I'm just going to let the tool do its job. Okay, we're done. Open it up, take it out. I've made my connection, and then what you should do to make sure on the job that everybody knows this was made, I'm going to go to my insertion point, and I'm going to put a plus across here. So now I can look at it and know that I've made that connection. That's it. You're done. So think about it when you're doing large refrigeration systems. Think about it when you're doing, since we're the Fujitsu reps, we do J series or we do our VRF series. You can have 15 up to 60 heads coming off of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 outdoor systems. And if I was going to braze all those, that's a lot of time, a lot of effort. Everybody has to braze properly. And if I don't, I'm going to clog up my system with crap. We don't want anything like that. This alleviates that. And plus with the pre-made flares, all right, I'm not going to have leaks here either. So this could really save you a lot of time, money, and labor time and callbacks by using this connection. Yes, sir, Rob.
All right, I got a couple of questions here.
Shoot, baby.
First, what is the fitting rated to as far as pressure is concerned?
What is the fitting rating to as far as pressure? Well, again, our systems, we're going to look for a 600-pound pressure test in these type of systems, and right on the bag, it tells you 700 PSI. All right?
Which is the same as in the old copper.
All right? It also will give you the operating temperature rating, so let's address that because somebody's going to ask. So minus 40 up to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Comparable refrigerants, What we're going to play with in our world, we're going to R32 and currently 410A. All right? Compatible oils, POE, PAO, AB, and mineral oil. Not for use with ammonia, R717.
Or R22.
Or R22. Dungeon will do that with R22. Okay? Any other questions on that, sir?
Yeah, I guess we could throw this one in there too. It just came in. What's the long-term reliability of this type of fitting in a vibration situation compared to brazing?
Good question.
So I think the easiest so it's really tough to answer that question. Yeah. But as far as the fitting is concerned, I would say since it is a mechanical connection as opposed to brazing. Brazing is kind of solid, and once it's there, it could, in a crazy type of situation, it could snap. Where we kind of have that rubber O-ring in there, so maybe it's less susceptible. But I would at least say that it is equivalent to brazing.
Okay. I mean, gentlemen, we're installing these systems. We want to make sure the outdoor unit is solid, installed, level, base is level, the outdoor unit is level. I shouldn't have any crazy type of vibrations going on. And I agree with Rob, it should be on the same level if it was a braze connection.
A really good point brought up here. Can they hear me? Because I don't know, maybe I should step up there. Come a
little closer, Robert.
All right. Let me just bring my computer with me. Second. Hello, everyone.
Oh, God.
We must be sure the existing refrigerant piping meets the ASTM rating. That can be challenging for old systems. So a very good point, and the reason why I wanted to bring this up in front of everybody is if we are unsure that we fall into that category of ASTM B280, it's not written anywhere on the jacket or anything along those lines, best thing to do, get yourselves this little tiny micrometer. You can get a digital one, nice and easy. You're just going to check the thickness of the wall of the copper. That's what that ASTM B280 rating is actually telling us. So once you get involved in the product, we have basically like a full line catalog that we would go through with you and show you the acceptable ranges. They give you a chart. Inside that chart, it'll tell you what that micrometer reading should be as far as the wall thickness of the copper is concerned. So if you do run into a system where you're not sure, there's a way to check that easily to find out if that copper is accepted. Most of the copper we use here in America is domestic. So the Muellers, the Cambridge, I'm forgetting the one that we rep.
Isoclima. Thank you.
All of those are going to fall under those ratings. So it's really only when we're getting, I don't want to say a specific country, but cheaper copper from overseas, that's where we run into that issue. So hopefully I was able to clarify that. All right, I'm out.
That was a deep answer. Thank you. All right. Where is my remote? Oh, here it is. Chris, I'm going back to PowerPoint. Okay, thank you. What do you got, Rob?
Can this be used on soft copper? Yes. Yes, it can, up to 7/8. After 7/8, we want to be, 1 inch or greater, we want to make sure that is done on hard copper.
So soft copper up to 7/8. If you didn't hear, the question was, can you use this type of connection on soft copper? Up to 7/8, yes, but remember, make sure it's got the same ASTM rating. Anything else, sir?
No, that's it.
All right.
Oh, and it's not a micrometer, it's a caliper. So my fault. I
all right.
A micrometer.
So if you didn't hear, not a micrometer, a caliper. All right. Very good. And thank you for that. We learned something. All right. So on your screen, there is an insertion depth and minimum distance between pressings. All right. So we train on this product. When you get trained on this product, You do take a test to make sure that you are understanding of this and that you are now warranted when you make this connection. All right, so this would be part of your testing. This is right out of the catalog that you would get at a class. So you can see the different minimum distances based on size of pipe. And we're showing you here minimum distances from a press fitting from an existing braze joint, or minimum brazing distance from one of our existing pressed fittings. Because there maybe you're making a repair on a system, and there's a braze connection already there, so there's distances that you have to be from the existing braze, or if somebody's brazing after the fact, what's that distance from our connection? All right, and again, you get all this information when you come to a class. So everything so far I've showed you, every single fitting, whether it was the Uponor PEX A, the total fit's pretty simple, but TracPipe for sure, that's a class you attend, because if you want to get those warranties, that's the class you need to come to. Same thing on the Conex Banninger. You need to come to class so that you are registered and you're going to get that warranty. All right. So Rob, if there's anything else, we're going to move forward. And a new product for us is called Press Technologies. These are water press connections. There's plenty of press connections out there for plumbing, for water. All right, we're kind of late to the game, but this is a company that we just hooked up with. These are one piece. These are seamless type of connections. All right, and again, same thing. It's a press connection with an O-ring, and they sink the O-ring in there very, very deeply, so you cannot roll it. There's always a chance when you're making a press connection for plumbing that if the O-ring sits up a little too high, there's a chance it could be rolled. And if it gets rolled, then we have a possible leak. You can use our refrigeration jaws to make these connections. It's not a problem. So it's still the same type of principle. I'm going to take this jaw out because I have to go and change it to make this connection. So it's the same type of situation. Use good copper, clean the copper, and I don't have my pipe to make it. What the heck happened? Well, anyway, I would clean my copper, make sure it's nice and clean, deburr it and all that. I press the fitting on. I mark the insertion depth. Then I put my tool on there. I'm going to press, since my jaw will press the bead, we'll press down on the bead, and then we mark on there that we've made the connection. I misplaced my copper. No, here it is. I got it. My bad. So I've cut the copper. I've cleaned, deburred the copper. I'm going to take my tool, mark my insertion depth. Okay, so I mark my insertion depth. Then I'm going to press this onto that insertion depth and then put it in the press tool and make that connection. So we have the same thing in water press. This is called Press Technologies. And again, you can use your same jaws that you did for refrigeration on the water. You can see on the screen, Chris, if we can go back to the PowerPoint, please. So you can see on the screen, all right, people are going to want to know, what can we use it for with chilled water, rainwater, grade water, hot and cold potable water, test pressure up to 600 PSI, Jimmy Fry, temperature range up to 250 degrees, all right, hydronic heating with glycol, not a problem, and steam, max pressure 5 pounds, okay? Different gases, because we do get, can we do it for nitrogen? Can we do it for compressed air? The answer is yes. So there's all your different ratings there on the Press Technologies. Next screen here, again, is going to show us all our listings and certifications and codes. So we're good to use this within our territory. And again, there'll always be an insertion depth and minimum distance between pressing. So really on any of these connections, always adhere to that. Don't try to do something that's outside what the manufacturer is telling you is allowable. Don't do it because I had to make it fit. Then if you have to do something outside the box and we're not telling you that that's allowed, don't do it. It's going to cause you a problem. It's probably going to cause you a leak in some way, shape, or form. You're going to have to figure out a better way to run the pipe so you stay within minimum distances. Can't express that enough. All right, please follow manufacturer specs for that. Okay? And again, more installation requirements. And again, we're going to be doing classes on this to make sure everybody's going to be doing it correctly. What's the minimum distance from a soldered connection? All right. What's the minimum distance in a braze connection? So if you're making repairs or if you're doing a brand new system, maybe at some point you have to solder or braze. Those are minimum distances you must adhere to. Okay? Pretty simple. Everybody should be kind of comfortable when it makes for plumbing press connections. Any questions there, Robert?
No.
All right. Moving on. Okay, and there, from a press connection. Okay, fine. And compatible tools. So again, if you've already got a press tool, you can see the different tools that you have so you can be able to make these connections with the press tool you already have. I'm not trying to sell tools. You may have to buy my jaws for different fittings that you're using, but if you already got a press tool from a Milwaukee, Klauka, Rigid, Viega, Nipco, you can make these connections. Just make sure you got the proper jaws. All right? All right. And more different tools that you can use depending if you're going now from 1/2 inch up to 2 inch. Okay. Now, last but not least, let me get this out of the way, is Centrotherm. This is a venting system, but it's a pipe. But it is a fitting system. And this is another fitting system that's going to save you a lot of time and also make sure you have a leak-free system. If you've been to any of our hydronic classes, any of our heating classes, and we do have a class specifically for gas venting, for venting of combustion gas, we use Centrotherm. And Centrotherm is a very unique product because this pipe is only made for venting. Only made for venting. So on the screen, we make every single type of configuration: straight pipe, flexible pipe, elbows, all right, 45s, concentric pipe, every single termination you would need on the outside of a building or through a chimney. This company makes it, and it's made, again, exclusively for venting. So big difference with this product versus PVC is this is made for venting. All right, did I say that about 10 times already? I think one more time. Rob, what is this made for?
That's for venting.
That's for venting. Are we running water through here, Rob?
No, we don't want to run water through there.
Hey, Jimmy, are we going to run any gas through here?
No.
Very good. Even Jimmy said no. So this is just made for venting. There are no glues and solvents when I put this product together. You will notice I have a socket here. We call this a socket. And we go up to very large sizes. And as we get into our commercial sizes, as always, I cut myself on something sharp. As we get into commercial sizes, the socket gets much deeper. So when that happens, I don't need to use any locking rings. So residentially, when you're running for condensing boilers, for tankless water heaters, condensing water heaters, what have you, you're probably going to be using to 2, 3, and 4 inch. And on those sizes, we do use a lock ring. So let me show you how this goes together. And the other important thing with this type of product is if when I'm using elbows or if I'm using a 45, these are not true 90s or 45s. We have built-in pitch because all venting for combustion, right, the products of combustion, you have to have 1/4 inch pitch per foot in order to have that combustion gas come out of the building. So my elbow is not a 90, it's an 87. Same thing with my 45s. They're not exact. That's built-in pitch. So you're going to, when you run your system, your piping, you're going to have the pitch already built in. So to make this type of connection, you didn't know that?
What?
I thought you knew that.
What? What are you talking about?
The built-in pitch.
No, I knew that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Jimmy didn't know. Aren't you glad you came?
Yeah.
So when we make our connection, the pipe comes in different lengths. You can cut the pipe out in the field. It's not a problem. And then we ask you to just take your utility knife and make a beveled edge. All you got to do. I'm going to put this elbow into here. And one thing I have to take advantage of is this gasket. You put any type of hot media, whether it's gas or water, pipe is going to expand. And that means even if it's copper or black iron pipe, it expands. All right, we sell expansion compensators for big steam systems because pipe can grow, hard pipe can grow up to 3 feet. So the same thing here for flue gas, this pipe can expand. All right, and it's going to expand not this way, it's going to expand in length. So this is what the socket's for, to give me enough room to take up that expansion, plus the gasket. That's what the gasket is for. So when I'm going to put this together, a couple of things I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that my fitting is going to have the lock ring already on it. Okay? Then I'm going to take this lube that comes with the product. Now, if I didn't have this lube, I could use water or I could use saliva. I could use spit. I'm going to put that on my finger. I'm going to run this lube around the gasket. Okay? We just lube up the gasket. Rob gets all excited when I talk about lubing gaskets. That was a joke, Robbie. Now I'm going to take my beveled edge and I'm going to slide it in here, give a little twist. I take my lock ring around here. Oh, Jim, come on. There's my lock ring around here. And when I push this on, the lock ring is going to clip over and I'm done. So for my 2, 3, and 4 inch, I need the lock ring. When I get up to 6, 8 inch and larger, no lock ring because I have a very deep socket. Since there's no glues or solvents here, once I complete my piping system for my exhaust, I can fire that appliance. If I did PVC, I've got to wait for that glue to cure. Because if I fire it up right away, you're going to blow up the system. And trust me, I've got some appliances here that we use for training, and I got it because guys blew up the system. Now, the other important thing is this pipe, did I say this was made for venting? Yes, it's only made for venting. And it's got a temperature range of up to 230 degrees. And to get that rating, I have to pass a 300-degree temperature test. So I have to pass a rating 70 degrees higher than what they allow us to put on the pipe for max temperature. So we're going to tell you 230 degrees. I can handle up to 300. When you do your condensing products, because this is really what this is for, and unless your supply water temperature is 120 degrees or less, you are outside the range of what PVC can handle. Since PVC is a pipe that is only rated for water and not for flue gas, the industry says we could take that pipe up to a temperature of 140 degrees. That means my supply water temperature is going to be 20 degrees less, because if I make 120 degree supply water, my flue gas is going to be 20 degrees hotter. So to stay within 140, I have to supply 120. Now, for a radiant system, if that's what you're doing, and that's the max temperature you're going to use, not a problem. You can PVC it all day long. But if you're going to go past that, now you're outside the range of PVC. And that starts to degrade that pipe. I can handle up to 230 degrees with this pipe. You do a lot of combi boilers out there. When I make my domestic hot water, that combi boiler is going to fire up to its high limit. So it could be 170, 180 degrees. So we're talking 200 degree flue gas. I can handle up to 230 degrees. Rob, what was that max on PVC again? What did I say? 140. Very good. So PVC is out of the game. And there's so many systems out there, condensing boilers especially, where if they don't set the heating curve and guys just set it to run at high temperature, you're going to degrade that PVC pretty quickly. Within about 5 years, you're going to start to see that pipe start to tan, and that is telling you it is breaking down. If they've stuck the pipe out the side of the building and it's going to be in the sun for a lot of hours throughout the day or sticking out of the roof, the UV light, UV rays from the sun are going to degrade that PVC. I am UV resistant as best I can be with this type of pipe. So you want to make sure you're using the proper pipe for those type of systems. This is Centrotherm. That's how you make a proper Centrotherm connection. Again, they make everything you need, whether you're going to come out the side of a building, you want to come out of the side with 2-pipe, you want to come out of the side of the building with a concentric, you want to go through the roof with 2-pipe, you want to go through the roof with concentric. I'm going to use the chimney as a chase. I have the cap for the chimney to make sure that that's going to work. And I also have a cap with chimneys if I'm going to use the chimney for my exhaust, and also bringing in combustion air for that appliance also. They make every type of adapter for every major company out there. If you got our Centrotherm catalog today, it's actually obsolete because they're always adding more fittings. So if there's something you need and you don't see it in the catalog for that particular manufacturer, give us a call. I'm pretty sure Centrotherm makes it already.
I actually have a question as far as the fitting is concerned.
Go, baby.
Do they make a drip leg tee for condensate in the pipe?
Yes, they do.
Isn't it 2 separate pieces, though? You have to buy the cap separately?
It's a different connection with the drip leg already in there. We got many of them.
Okay.
We got many of them.
I just wanted to clarify.
And they do make systems if you're going to have multiple boilers that you can common vent them all into one before you go out. They have a department that will help you design your system. If you're looking to, how can I lay out this gas pipe, this venting system for maybe a commercial job? All right, you give us dimensions, you draw out what you're trying to do on paper, we send it to them, and they will come up with the bill of materials for you on how to build that. Excellent company to do business with, very friendly, very smart, great product. Anything else there, Robert?
No, that's it.
So we have done, wow, 1 hour and 15 on how to make connections. So if you've got any questions, please email us. You can email me at jdepalma@walesdarby.com. You can email Rob at rclemens@walesdarby.com. If you're interested in any of these fitting connections on any of these products, please contact us because you need to take a class to get the warranties and to make sure that you've got either the card to buy the product and pass inspection, because you're going to have to show the inspector, and make sure that your team is doing it right. Okay? So if there are no more questions, I want to thank you very much. This is the last webinar for 2023, and we'll probably be back in 2024, maybe mid-February or so. All right? We'll let everybody know. So thank you very much for today, and everybody have great holidays, and we'll see you next year.